You wake up on a morning like any other. The curtains flutter gently in the wind, the clock ticks, and the sunlight slowly fills the room. But there's one difference. No one calls your name. No clinking dishes from the kitchen. No messages checking in. No sound of little slippers shuffling around like when your grandchildren used to visit. Only the sound of your breathing, slow, steady, and quieter than ever. You push yourself up with your hands. The room is the same, nothing has changed. But you have. Not because your hair has turned gray or your legs have weakened, but because there's no one waiting in your heart anymore. There's a truth that few speak aloud. Growing old isn't scary. What's truly painful is growing old in silence without anyone noticing. You don't cry. Older people don't cry easily. But at a certain moment, you find yourself wondering, if I disappeared today, would anyone notice if I stayed silent forever? Would anyone call my name again? You once had a very busy life, so busy you didn't even have time to rest. You used to pack breakfast for your kids before you had a chance to brush your hair. Used to rock your grandchild to sleep at midnight. Used to care for your husband during long months in the hospital without ever complaining. You used to be the center of the household, the one who kept everything moving. But then, everything grew quiet. Your husband passed. The children grew up. Life no longer revolves around you. No one meant to leave you behind. It's just that the world moved on to a different rhythm without warning. Now you live alone. Every meal you only cook for one. The old cup is still in the same spot. The jacket is still unwashed because I only wore it for a bit. You're not sad. You've just started to forget what it feels like to be needed. Silence is no longer a place of rest. It becomes a giant mirror reflecting yourself. And in that mirror, what do you see? A head of gray hair, wrinkled skin, or a heart still full of unspoken things? A thinner body or a soul quietly yearning to be heard? You don't want to bother anyone. You've grown used to being quiet, patient, and saying it's okay for decades. But in some corner of your heart, you still wish someone would touch your shoulder and say, "Ma'am, I could use your help with something small." Life doesn't disappear all at once. It fades feeling by feeling, habit by habit, joy by joy, until no one notices anymore. So if you've ever felt yourself slowly fading inside your own familiar home, if you've ever sat by the window and forgotten what you were waiting for, if you've ever gone quiet after seeing an old photo and whispered, "How long has it been since someone last hugged me?" then this video is for you. Not to bring up sorrow, not to say everything will be fine, but to tell you honestly, you're not done. You're not finished. You can still begin again in a very different way. I'm going to share with you 3 simple things, not a secret to long life, not an anti-aging routine, but just a way to come back to yourself fully and wholeheartedly. If you're still listening, please stay, because what I'm about to say isn't for entertainment. It's to help you hear that quiet voice deep inside, the one you may have forgotten long ago. Before we move on to the next part, I want to invite you to do something very small, but it might bring up a lot of feelings. If you're watching this video and you feel like you're living in a kind of silence like I just described, please type the number 0 in the comments. No need to explain anything, just one number. So I and others know that you're here, that you exist. And if you've ever made it through that silence, if you've learned to befriend loneliness, type the number 1 to share a little light with those still sitting in the dark. You never know. That small number might be the one thing that helps someone feel they're not alone. We don't need to say much. We just need to be silent together, not alone. And if you feel this video holds some value, please hit subscribe. Not for me, but because somewhere out there, someone might be sitting quietly just like you. And a video like this might be the very first thing that helps them want to begin again. Because at the end of this video, I'll share a very small secret. Something most young people don't know, but every older person should hear it at least once in their life. It's something that has helped many people find peace, even when they are completely alone. So please stay. We'll continue gently, slowly, but surely. After all the years of working, caring, and giving, many seniors enter this next chapter with a feeling that's strange and hard to name. You're no longer in the middle of everything. You no longer make the big or small decisions in the family. No one needs you to cook or drive anyone around. No one calls just to ask mom, what should I do now? And you begin to ask yourself, am I still useful? Do I still have a role in this world? You're still living, still doing things day by day, but deep inside it feels like you're slowly stepping away from the center of life. But you know what? You've never lost your worth. It's just that your worth has taken on a new role. Youth is for action, middle age is for responsibility, and old age is the time to slow down and see something deeper. You are the keeper of memories, the one who has survived storms that the younger generations only hear about. The one who knows what it means to lose and still dares to keep going. At this age, you no longer need to prove anything. You only need to live, truly live clearly, and live for yourself. And when you do that, your presence becomes valuable in the quietest way. You don't have to chase technology. You don't need to understand every new thing, but you can still offer a warm look, a thoughtful word, a piece of advice drawn from experience, the kind no book could ever provide. We often talk about success, productivity, and contribution. But for older adults, a peaceful presence is already a contribution. You're still here. And the way you live with awareness, gentleness, and gratitude is a gift to everyone around you. Many older adults have asked me, at this stage in life, is there still anything I can do for others? And I often respond like this. If each day you can look in the mirror and smile, that's already something many young people haven't learned to do yet. So before you think you've outlived your purpose, let me remind you of this. There are things only those who have known loneliness can truly understand. There are feelings only those who've walked almost the full path of life can truly sense. And because you've come this far, you are now still enough to see the 3 things we'll explore in the next part. You don't need to rush into action. You don't need to change anything right now. All I ask is that you listen the same way you've listened your whole life for others, but this time, listen for yourself. We'll begin with the first truth. Make peace with silence. No more running from it. No more fearing it. Just sit with it like an old friend coming home. And as I promised, if you stay until the end of this video, I'll share a very small secret, something almost no one says to older people, but knowing it could shift the way you see the rest of your life. You still have worth not because others need you, but because your quiet presence holds a beauty all its own. And sometimes that beauty doesn't need to be seen by others. It only needs to be recognized by you, and that is enough. But to truly see that, you'll need a space wide enough to listen, a quiet place to hear, a stillness to touch the part of yourself you haven't touched in a long time. And the first thing, perhaps the hardest, is this: learning how to live with silence. Not to endure it, not to avoid it, but to make friends with it like an old companion returning, bringing with it things long forgotten. Are you ready? Let's begin gently by simply sitting down and listening to yourself again. Step 1, make friends with silence. When there's no sound, learn to listen. Have you ever heard this saying, only when the outside noise stops can we hear the voice within? Old age, it isn't always lonely, but it is often very quiet. No more doors opening early in the morning. No one asks mom, what do you want for breakfast? No one telling you stories about work, the kids, or who called home yesterday. And in those kinds of days, you start to hear your footsteps, the sound of a spoon touching a plate, the kettle quietly boiling, the slow rhythm of your heart, not racing, not joyful, just steady. Someone once told me loneliness isn't as frightening as silence that lasts too long. And I understood. Because when the world outside goes quiet, your mind begins to speak to itself. And if you're not used to hearing that voice, it can feel exhausting. You might hear it ask, do I still matter? Why does no one seem to need me anymore? Does anyone even remember me? Don't worry. These questions are not signs of weakness. They are a real part of being human, especially of being someone who has lived, endured, and given much. Silence isn't here to punish you. It's here to open up a new space, a space where you can finally hear yourself again. In the past, you were too busy to even have 5 minutes to yourself. You woke up to cook, drive, and care for others. You went to bed because you were exhausted, not because you wanted to. But now, when no one is calling your name, when no one needs to remind you of anything, you can finally sit, truly, with yourself. And strangely enough, at first it may feel empty. But slowly, you'll realize you are not empty inside. You've simply never had the chance to listen? Start small. Keep a little notebook beside your bed. Write down one sentence each day, not for anyone else, just to remind yourself that you are here still living. Each morning, don't rush to turn on the TV. Sit quietly for 5 minutes. Listen to the sounds in your home. Look at a tree. Look at your hands. Look at old photos, not to feel regret, but to remember how many years you've lived with grace. Each evening, make yourself a warm drink. Sit somewhere with sunlight. No need to speak, just be there. You might think, is that all? But what I want you to feel is not some grand change, but a gentle return. A return to yourself full of dignity. When you dare to sit quietly with yourself, you no longer need a crowd to fill the silence. You no longer need anyone else to tell you that you are worthy. You'll know from within. And that is one of the most precious gifts old age can offer. No one lives their whole life in noise. There comes a time when you must sit in silence. And if you learn how to befriend it, then each day, even if no one visits you, will never feel alone. An 87-year-old woman once told me, "As long as I can write one sentence in my notebook, I know I'm still alive." I believe her. And I believe you can do something just like that in your way. And if you've gone a long time without hearing anyone call your name, then starting today, be the first one to call your name each morning. Call it gently, with gratitude, with presence. Silence is not the enemy. It's just waiting for you to fill it with something new. Not noise, just truth. When you're finally able to sit with yourself and the silence no longer feels frightening, you'll begin to hear something small, quiet, but clear. It's the feeling of wanting to take part again, not to be noticed, just to be included in something meaningful. Because in the end, humans don't just need stillness. We need to feel useful, even if it's something very small, like taking care of a plant, doing one little task, or being trusted with a tiny responsibility. And that brings us to the second step I want to share with you. Step 2, take on a small responsibility to keep feeling useful. When you've finally been able to sit with yourself and silence no longer feels frightening, you'll begin to hear something very small, very quiet, but unmistakably clear. It's the feeling of wanting to take part again, not to be noticed, not to play a big role like you once did, just to be present in a meaningful way. Because after all, we don't just need quiet to heal, we also need to feel useful. And no one else, only you can choose what to stay connected to. Just one task, one simple habit, one small responsibility. Not because someone assigned it to you, but because your heart wants it. Do you remember when we were young, responsibilities were endless? Raising children, working, providing. Even on the most exhausting days, you'd still tell yourself, keep going, someone needs me. And then one day, everything went quiet. No one needed you to wake up early. No one asked you to cook. No one came to you for advice on what to do in the house. At first, it felt like freedom. But over time, you began to realize having nothing waiting for you also means nothing is pulling you up. And that is the real emptiness, not in the house, but inside you. But here's the truth. You can fill that space. No permission is needed. Just choose one thing to do every day, even if it's so small that no one else notices. For example, care for a single potted plant. Every morning, water it. Notice new leaves. Wipe the dust gently. Call it by a name if you'd like. Maybe no one sees you doing it, but you know it's alive because of you. Clean up a small corner of your home, not because someone is coming to visit, but to remind yourself that you still have the energy to bring order to a space just for you. Write a few lines in a journal each night. Note down one thing you did today, even if it's as simple as I made a cup of tea better than I did yesterday. That's real, and it belongs to you. You might ask, what's the point? No one cares, but you've forgotten one thing. What matters isn't who sees it, but that you still see yourself. When you stay connected to something, even something small, you begin to feel a shift inside. Your mind has a place to land. Your sense of dignity has something to anchor to. You begin to feel needed, not by the world, but by the one small thing you chose. I once met an 81-year-old man who wiped down his old radio every day, even though he no longer used it. I asked him why he kept it so clean. He just smiled and said, "Because it gives me a reason to wipe something clean each day." At this age, responsibility is no longer a burden. It becomes a gentle thread, something that keeps your heart tied to life, and you don't need anyone to hand you that thread. You can tie it around your own heart with something you choose to care for. Just choose one thing, only one. Repeat it every day, gently, steadily, without pressure, and then you'll begin to see, as long as something depends on you, you'll always have a reason to keep going. Next, I'll share with you the third step, perhaps the most delicate and difficult of all: forgiveness. Not to forget, but to lighten the heart. Step 3, forgiveness. Not because they deserve it, but because you need peace. There's something many older adults carry with them for a lifetime, and it's not wealth. It's not an illness. It's emotional wounds that were never truly healed. Maybe it's a child who no longer calls, a friend who once betrayed your trust, a loved one who did something you can't forget. Or maybe it's you for a choice you made, a mistake you never forgave yourself for. When those things happened, maybe you tried your best to move on, but time doesn't always make pain disappear. It just pushes it into a quiet corner of the heart where it lies still. Until now, and then it aches even when no one sees it. People often think forgiveness means forgetting, but it doesn't. Forgiveness means lightening the load. Not forgetting, not erasing, not excusing. Just choosing not to carry it one more step on the road ahead. When we're young, we can carry a lot without noticing, but eventually you get tired. And if your baggage still holds quiet stones with names like resentment, hurt, regret, how can you walk forward in peace? You don't need an apology. You don't need others to change. You just need the courage to say to yourself, I won't let that hurt me anymore. I'm letting it go not for them, but because I need peace. Forgiveness isn't a one-time act. It's a journey, and that journey can begin with something very small. Write down one thing you've been holding against someone and burn it. Don't send it. Don't keep it. Just let it leave your heart. Look into the mirror and say to yourself, I made a mistake, but I no longer punish myself for it. Pray quietly with no one watching for the person you were once angry with. Not because they need it, but because you need to feel what it's like to let go of something old. An elderly woman once told me, forgiveness is when I can think about the past and my heart doesn't tighten anymore. I think that's the simplest and truest definition, because forgiveness doesn't change the past, it frees the present. You don't need to carry restless nights, silent sighs, or the moments you blame yourself when no one's watching. You have the right to choose gentleness for the days you have left. When you forgive, you are not weak. You are strong enough to look at what happened and still choose to move forward. And that is the third truth: forgiveness, not because others deserve it, but because you deserve peace. And when you've learned to listen to yourself in silence, choose one small thing to feel useful again, and forgive others, life, and yourself, then something very special begins to happen inside you. Not the cold emptiness you once feared, but a clean, open space, ready to receive something new. A small, quiet secret that almost no one tells older people, but one that can change everything. Not some grand philosophy, not a therapy technique, just a quiet truth, one that if you truly understand, you'll stop feeling like you're just getting through the days. And that's what I want to share with you, a secret saved for the very end of this video. The quiet secret of growing old. You are the only one who can give meaning to the years you have left. You've heard many things about growing old, that it's the final stage, a time to rest, a season to slow down. But few people ever tell you this: old age is not the end. It's a special chapter, a time when you no longer have to prove anything to anyone, but you finally get to choose everything. No more choosing a career. No more living under society's gaze. No more pleasing everyone. And that is true freedom. You've spent so much of your life living for others. Now you have the right to live for yourself deeply and with intention. You can choose to listen to an old song, not to feel nostalgic, but to see how far you've come. Reread a book, not to learn, but to reconnect with who you once were. Look at an aging leaf and see that it's still beautiful, even when it's no longer green. Here's the secret. Old age does not take away your meaning. It simply hands you full permission to create that meaning in your way. And because no one is telling you what to do anymore, Every act you choose, no matter how small, becomes all the more precious. No one expects you to change the world. But if you clean out an old drawer, write a letter you never sent, smile at a younger neighbor, reread a Bible verse, or a passage that once moved you to tears, then you are already rewriting the meaning of your days. Not everyone can do that, because it takes awareness, it takes courage, and it takes a kind of gentleness to understand meaning doesn't come from big things. It lives in the way you simply show up. You are still here. You are still breathing. There are still things left unsaid. Still chances to forgive, to love, to bring a piece of yourself back to life. And if someone were to ask me, what's the greatest secret of growing old, I would smile and say, it's this: you still have something to give, and life still has something to give back, but only if you're willing to open your heart one more time. And if you're still here, still reading, listening, please know this: you are not alone. You are not meaningless, and you still have so much to live for. If you've stayed with me until now, please know this was no accident. Somewhere in these last few minutes, maybe you recognize something, a quiet memory, a hidden feeling, a truth you've never spoken, but today it was gently touched. And that is why I made this video. Not to give advice, but simply to remind you, you are still here within yourself. And if you pause long enough to truly feel it, you'll see you never lost anything at all. Old age doesn't have to be the closing of meaning. In fact, it may be where the deepest meaning begins, when you no longer rush, when you have time to reflect, to rewrite, to love yourself again, when you can be quiet without needing to explain. And if this video touched something in you, please don't keep it to yourself. Share anything you'd like in the comments, because this could be the beginning of a new connection. And if this feels like a space you want to return to, please consider subscribing. I am deeply grateful. And somewhere out there, someone just like you may be waiting for a video like this to feel a little less alone. Old age doesn't have to be silent days of waiting. It can be the final chapter where you live most honestly with yourself. And you deserve that. Thank you for staying with me until the very end. I'll see you in the next video. Take care and goodbye for now.